there are vegetables that seem healthy for everyone, but for some people they may not be the best choice for the kidneys. I know that sentence gets attention because for years many people were taught that the more salad and vegetables on the plate, the better, no matter what. But the truth is that when we talk about kidney health, context matters a lot. What is excellent for someone with healthy kidneys may need adjustment in someone who already has kidney disease, kidney stones, diabetes, high blood pressure, or elevated potassium on lab work. And that is exactly what I want to talk to you about today. Not to make you afraid of food, not to demonize any vegetable, but to show you that real health is not about memorizing a list of foods that are always good or always bad. Real health is about understanding what makes sense for your body in your moment with your medical history. I am Edu Rodriguez, a pharmacist, biochemist, and health educator. And today I want to help you look at vegetables in a much smarter way, especially if you want to take better care of your kidneys or you have already received some kind of warning in your labs, blood pressure, diabetes, or kidney stone history. Before we talk about specific foods, I need you to understand something simple and very important. The kidneys work silently. They filter the blood, help control fluids, electrolytes, and blood pressure, and they also take part in important balance mechanisms throughout the body. The problem is that they can tolerate a lot without complaining. In many cases, when symptoms appear clearly, the problem is already more advanced. That is why prevention makes such a big difference. And prevention very often begins in the kitchen. It does not start with fear. It starts with information. So I want to begin with the positive side of the story. Let's first talk about some vegetables that are often interesting choices inside a more kidney-friendly strategy, especially when there is a need for more attention to potassium, phosphorus, or hydration. The first food I like to highlight is red bell pepper. Many people think of bell pepper as just a small detail in a salad or stir fry, but it can actually be a very smart choice. It brings color, flavor, vitamin C, and several antioxidant compounds without being one of the heavier choices in potassium when compared with certain leafy greens and vegetables that are usually seen as super healthy. On top of that, red bell pepper is very versatile. You can use it raw in salads, roasted in the oven, sautéed, in omelets, in fillings, and even as a base for lighter preparations. For someone who needs to vary the plate without overloading certain minerals, it can fit in very well. Another great ally is cabbage. And I know many people look at cabbage as a boring food, but cabbage is one of those humble ingredients that deserves more respect. It is often an interesting option for someone who needs a lighter approach for the kidneys, and it also offers fiber and natural compounds that connect with intestinal health and inflammation control. That matters because the kidneys, the gut, inflammation, and metabolism do not live separately. Everything is connected. When the diet improves as a whole, the kidneys also tend to work in a less aggressive environment. And cabbage can be used in many ways: raw, sautéed, in salads, in soups, or in warm and cold dishes. Cauliflower also deserves attention. It became very popular as a substitute for rice, mashed potatoes, and other more carbohydrate-heavy foods, but it goes beyond that. Cauliflower is an interesting option for someone looking for more fiber, more variety, and less burden when compared with foods that, in some kidney-related situations, may be harder to manage. It is also very versatile. You can make mash, roast it, boil it, use it in soups, sauté it in a pan, and even process it into lighter versions of traditional dishes. When seasoned well, it tastes great and can help a lot when someone wants to protect the kidneys without giving up enjoyable meals. And then there is cucumber, which many people underestimate. Cucumber is light, refreshing, has a very high water content, and fits well into a more thoughtful, kidney-friendly eating pattern, especially in people who need to improve their general hydration and reduce the intake of very concentrated foods. Of course, in more advanced kidney disease, even fluids may need to be controlled, and that must always be individualized. But in general, cucumber is usually a simple and welcome option. Now I want to move into the part that requires more attention. And here I need to be very responsible with you. The point is not to go around saying that certain vegetables are bad for everyone. That would be wrong. The real point is this: some vegetables, even though they are nutritious, may be less appropriate in specific people because of potassium or oxalate load. That is where spinach comes in. Spinach is nutritious, it has qualities, but it is also known for containing a lot of oxalate and a significant amount of potassium, especially depending on the preparation and portion size. For someone with healthy kidneys, this does not mean it is forbidden. But for someone who already has chronic kidney disease, a tendency toward high potassium, or a history of calcium oxalate stones, it deserves attention. This is the kind of detail that changes everything. The food is not a universal villain. The food may simply be inappropriate in a specific clinical situation. And that difference needs to be very clear. Swiss chard and beetroot also enter this conversation. Beetroot is often remembered as a functional food, good for performance, good for circulation, and beautiful on the plate. Swiss chard has a reputation as a healthy, light leafy green. But depending on the kidney situation, they may not be the best choices when there is a bigger concern with oxalate or with the balance of certain minerals. Again, I am not saying everyone needs to remove these foods from life. I am saying that a kidney patient cannot live on generic internet advice. That person needs individualized guidance. Because sometimes what is being sold as super healthy for the general population may not be the best fit for someone whose kidneys are already vulnerable. Tomatoes deserve a very important explanation. Fresh tomato, in a moderate amount, is not always the main problem. What tends to matter more are the concentrated forms. Reduced tomato sauce, paste, highly concentrated versions, and large amounts used in cooking can deliver a mineral load that is bigger than people realize. And in someone who needs to control potassium, that detail matters. So very often the issue is not the slice of tomato in the salad. The issue is the excess, the repetition, and the concentration. And that applies to many foods. The way a food is prepared changes its final impact quite a bit. Broccoli is another example that shows how this subject needs balance. Broccoli is excellent for many people. It is nutritious, rich in useful compounds, and can be part of an anti-inflammatory eating pattern. But in patients on a strict potassium restriction, even foods considered excellent may need moderation and calculation. Do you see how the conversation changes? This is not about going out hunting for forbidden foods. It is about understanding dose, context, preparation, and clinical condition. And since I mentioned preparation, I want to give you a practical point that is extremely useful. In some cases of potassium restriction, the cooking method can help. Cooking certain vegetables in plenty of water and discarding that water can reduce part of the potassium. Methods like steaming or pressure cooking may not offer the same reduction. But this has to be used with proper guidance, especially in people who truly have a confirmed restriction. Now, I do not want you to leave this video thinking that taking care of the kidneys is only about replacing one vegetable with another. It is not. Kidney health depends on a whole set of decisions. The first one is blood pressure control. High blood pressure slowly damages the kidneys, often without symptoms. If a person neglects hypertension, the kidneys pay the price. The second is good diabetes control. High blood sugar over time injures blood vessels, nerves, and also the kidneys. This is one of the main causes of chronic kidney disease. The third is reducing excess sodium. And here I am not talking only about salt from the shaker. I am talking about seasoning packets, processed meats, instant noodles, salty snacks, industrial sauces, frozen ultra-processed meals, stock cubes, and everything else loaded with hidden sodium. The fourth is proper hydration, always respecting each person's context. Someone without a specific restriction generally benefits from keeping water intake in line with climate, routine, and thirst, without living in a chronically dehydrated state. But someone with advanced kidney disease needs to follow the doctor's guidance regarding fluid limits. The fifth is being very careful with frequent use of anti-inflammatory painkillers on your own. Many people take ibuprofen, diclofenac, naproxen, and similar medications as if they were harmless. They are not. Repeated and careless use can hurt the kidneys, especially in people who already have risk factors. The sixth is not overdoing animal protein when there is no need, especially in the context of already established kidney disease. This does not mean every person needs to stop eating protein. It means that excess and imbalance can increase the kidney workload in some cases. And once again, that is where individualization becomes essential. If I had to summarize this whole conversation in one sentence, it would be this. There is no vegetable that is universally good or universally bad. There are foods that are more or less appropriate for your health condition at this moment. For people with healthy kidneys, many of these vegetables can be part of an excellent diet. For someone with kidney disease, recurrent stones, high potassium, diabetes, or poorly controlled blood pressure, The plate needs to be built with much more strategy. So the next time you go to the supermarket, I want you to make a different choice. Instead of buying on autopilot, think about what your body really needs. Sometimes replacing spinach with cabbage, concentrated tomato sauce with roasted red pepper, or excess with balance can already change the path significantly. In the end, preventive medicine also happens at the stove, at the market, on the grocery list, and in the way you build your meals. Every meal can either push your kidneys forward or work against them. If this content helped you, like the video and subscribe to EDU Health Tips. And tell me in the comments, which of these options do you eat most often today? And did you already know that kidney health depends so much on the details of what is on your plate?